last thing I want you to do is feel overworked and overwhelmed and stressed out. Then you hit burnout and then you end up resenting the very space that you believed in to begin with. I'm not a big fan of recruiting. I'm never going to say never. So I wouldn't say that you shouldn't ever do it. Questions like, what are your 1-year plan? What is your long-term goal? What have you done to educate yourself beyond beauty school? Really important to lay out very clearly what you're offering to them, what you're providing for them, and what you're wanting back in return. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the Successful Stylist Academy podcast. I'm your host, Ambrosia Carey, where we go all into elevating your business mindset and financial freedom. In today's episode, we're tackling one of the biggest challenges for salon owners. And this actually came directly from one of you on YouTube. The question was from Diamond Day in 1989, and you asked, if you're taking requests, I would love to hear more content on hiring and trusting new employees. We realized some of the biggest challenges for salon ownership is finding the right team member, because not only could it be detrimental to the business if it's not a good fit, but it can also cost a lot of money for us as a salon owner, and it puts a lot of pressure on us. So I have a little bit of a breakdown in the method and how we approach hiring team members. And I'm hoping that this helps you not just gaining insight, but also just forecasting what it is that you are looking for with your team members. Let's start this out with number one, shall we? So I would start out with knowing when it's time to hire. I have a couple of things that I want to give you as insight into what you should be looking for when you are hiring that team member. I do have some benchmarks that I like to list out when I'm working with a salon owner, what they should be looking for within their business to know that they're ready to hire somebody. And a lot of times we can kind of get ahead of ourselves and there's actually no money left over to hire somebody. And then it gets to a point where we are actually paying for someone else over ourselves. And then that can lead to burnout and overwhelm within the business. So here are a couple of things to consider. If you're constantly booked, and when I say constantly, if you are about 80% capacity on your books for at least 3 months, then you know that's a time to consider hiring. So look over your books and see, how booked out am I? It might seem like you're busier than you actually are. So just look at those metrics. And I know that every single one, like Gloss Genius that I use, for instance, I can look at the reports and see how booked up I was and what my pre-booking percentage was and everything. So just check in on that first before you even go to that next step. The second benchmark I would consider is how much cash flow you have. So if you are at 6 figures or above, you know that you have a little bit more of a cushion or a nest egg, so that if you have to take a hit financially for your own personal finances and you can put it back into another person, that will safeguard anything that could fall through or any last minute things that could change within your business and not put you through a very stressful situation, right? And then the third thing that kind of leads right into it is if your profit margin. So if you're not really quite hitting 6 figures, but your profit margins are showing you that you're at 20%, then that puts you in a really great space to be able to reinvest that money back into an employee. Or if you're hiring somebody to rent a chair, for instance, that could be something that you not only have the time to put into that, but you also are in a place where you're growing, that you want to expand your growth and you're ready for that next benchmark. So as a general rule with these benchmarks, even though, yes, it's a little bit more generous, the reason why I'm saying this is because a lot of times people get emotionally involved and they want to hire somebody because they believe in that person or they would think it would be exciting to grow a team. And I really want you to arm yourself with this knowledge and just feel like very empowered and feel like you are ready to make that step financially. And it's not going to burden your business or take away your time. Because the last thing I want you to do is feel overworked and overwhelmed and stressed out. And then you hit burnout and then you end up resenting the very space that you believed in to begin with. So this is just something that kind of like helps you feel like you're really ready for it. And it's not just emotionally, but financially. So when you're fully booked, when your salon is growing and you're actually making profit, and then of course, when you're ready to focus on leadership and having a team. So step number 2, now you're ready to hire the right fit. And the right fit can vary depending on what you're looking for. So I think one of the things that I would look for is defining clearly who this person looks like. If you were having a junior stylist or an assistant, I should say, or even a front desk team member, I want you to lay out the responsibilities, their job description, where there's some room for growth with them, what their pay is going to be, what the qualifications are that you're looking for. Are they experienced? How long do they want to stay with you? Outlining their job responsibilities, maybe their skill set. Is there potential for growth with them within the business? What are you going to be offering as an incentive structure? Are you hiring an employee or are you only sticking with chair rental? If so, have you done the numbers to figure out what your chair is going to rent for? Are there more options than just one? Like, could you have a opportunity for that stylist to grow into other things like being an educator? So all of these things, you need to have those answered before you actually look for the right team member. Because once you have those answered, then you'll know who you want to align this with and really who you're looking for. Then, when you actually start to connect with people, that's when you can start to visit beauty schools. For me, I've had huge success in going to beauty schools and doing like kind of a give back. I talk to the students and I tell them what they should be looking for when they're actually going in for the hiring process and what kinds of questions they should be asking the salon owner when they're looking to get hired. I also encourage them to visit salons before they actually graduate so that they actually really know what's around them. A lot of times people wait until they're done with school and then they go through the rigorous hiring process and they kind of make emergency decisions. And they typically go after salons that are really pretty, but maybe don't have those systems set up. And then that can set them up for failure as well. So I'm just saying for you as a salon owner or somebody who wants to own a salon someday, these are all the things that it's really great to prepare yourself for. So that way you're never really in an emergency decision. And it also helps you connect with the right people in beauty schools. Then you get a better idea or landscape of what people are actually looking for as a leader. They're looking toward you as a salon owner. Social media is another thing that you can really start talking about that because if you show your space and then you can kind of figure out how you want to curate material or content. And it's a really great time too to just see who's around your area and who you can actually build relationships with. That's where you can also attend certain events that invite people who are industry related in. I know that there are a lot of controversial things out there right now where other coaches are saying like recruiting is part of your business. I personally am not a big fan of recruiting. And I'm not saying never, I'm never going to say never. So I wouldn't say that you shouldn't ever do it. But hear me out when I tell you this. The reason why I don't typically do recruiting, the reason why I've actually never done recruiting is because when you incentivize somebody to leave a space and come to you, you're already picking somebody who is not going to stay loyal to a place. And then they also may not stay loyal with you too. And they're searching for better opportunities. And that typically is not like a sustainable way to run a business. So for me, I pride myself in saying that I don't recruit people, that if they are really interested in working in my space, then they can contact me. That doesn't mean that you don't have to build content around that and show that you're hiring and show the excitement around it and get your clients involved in that situation too. And it doesn't even mean that you don't need to reach out to salons and say, I'm looking to hire and this is who I'm looking for. And this is also a really great way to segue back into the reason why teaching is so important inside beauty schools, because then you get to know the people who are actually teaching there. You get to know who the educational director is there. And then you get to build a rapport with that person. And the closer you can be to that person, then the more that they may help you in the future too. And that's worked really well for me as well. The next step actually comes down to the interview. So once you actually start to build up some of those resumes, then contacting those people and having a set date to have them come in. If you have several applicants, I say 3 or more, then do a group interview. The reason why I like a group interview is because it does put a little bit of heat under people, but it also gets the excitement going. And it's something where you can actually see how people do when they're around other people. You know, a lot of times when we're one on one with somebody, they're very nervous, but in a very different way, they want to impress you as a person. But if you get other people together, they start to envision what it may look like when they're in that space. And also, how do they interact with other people that are around them? Some people can come off a little bit standoffish at first, and then other people could be very open and expressive and really excited to be around other people. So you get a general sense of their personality to begin with. But what's really cool too is that in some ways, you're also training those people around others how to actually answer an interview question. Some people are going to be more forthright about it, and others may give you a perfectly curated answer too. So that also tells you a little bit something about them too. After that happens, then you want to revisit bringing them in for an individual interview. And that's where you can invite them to come back. So that's step two. When they come in for those individual interviews, you want to ask them questions. You want to ask them what questions they have for you. This gives you an opportunity to address specific things that you're really looking for as an owner, and then find out really what they are looking for. So questions like, what are your 1 year plan? What is your long-term goal? What have you done to educate yourself beyond beauty school? If they already have clients, and you can ask them what their client retention is like, how many days they would like to work, what they're looking for in a salon environment. So you get a general sense of more what's going to work for one another for both of you. Then you're going to go into your shadow. So shadowing is really great because it allows them to come in and get a general sense of what it's like to work in your environment. And then you can also see how they interact with your clients as well. Even if it's only you and it's only them, it doesn't matter if there's no other team members involved. But if there are other team members involved, you get a general sense of how well are they getting along. And then you can ask your team members afterward, how did that go? Did you like this person? Did you see anything that stood out with them? Is there anything that didn't go so well? So then you can really get a general sense of how are they behind closed doors too? Because sometimes things happen that you don't particularly see that someone else does, and they get to point it out for you. So that really makes it feel like you're hiring as a team. And that's really important too if you want to build a strong team environment. That's really worked well for us. The fourth and final thing is, if they go through all those steps and you're a really strong fit, then you want to invite them back for a technical interview. What I like about a technical interview is you really get to see what their chairside manner is like, how they interact with the clients, how they actually move behind the chair. Are they really interactive and expressive? Are they silent? Do they ask questions? Do they like to teach? And more importantly, do they respond well to your critiques or questions? So this is a time where you actually observe them working, or someone on your team can observe them working. And you lay out the foundation by saying, I am not judging you on your technical ability or your skill set behind the chair. I just want to see how you interact with your client behind the chair. And I would like for you to just teach them what you're doing and how you're doing it, and treat them like they're a client. So let them provide a blowout or a haircut service to one of their friends or family members for free. And then they're working behind the chair, and you get to see how that interaction plays out. So those 4 steps in general, that really helps you filter out somebody who's going to be the best fit for you possible. And then you feel more secure in taking that next step together. After that, you want to decide how you want your training to go down. So if this is someone who's independent, are you going to offer any kind of training for that person so they feel really comfortable when they enter the space in? Or are they interested themselves in becoming an educator? And if that's the case, that's something that you can kind of build together. If you're interested in bringing on an employee, however, then it's really important to lay out very clearly what you're offering to them, what you're providing for them, and what you're wanting back in return. So, for instance, I have an apprenticeship program in my salon. The apprenticeship goes up to 1 year, but I state very clearly in the first 90 days that we have benchmarks that we're hitting together, and we have test outs. And after that 90-day period, they may have an opportunity to start taking clients behind the chair. If they don't hit those benchmarks, however, then we have another sit down together, and then we give them goals. If they still can't hit those goals, then we kind of start out with a little bit of a warning. And this is where it becomes a little tricky. But if you have those benchmarks laid out ahead of time, they know what to expect. And what's really interesting is stylists feel taken care of. If they know that there's expectations of them, then they feel more successful walking into it, and they feel like there's an opportunity for them to grow into, rather than it just being like it's a 1 year thing and then you go on the floor. Ideally, what you want to do so that as a salon owner, you're covering your costs with that person, is you want to get them up to speed as quickly as possible to put them behind the chair and start generating income for themselves and for you, right? Ideally, you want them to be paying for their own education as they're working with you, because typically as an apprentice, when you bring someone in, you are paying them at least minimum wage or more. And if they're taking clients, you have to, by law, pay them commission, or at least that's how it is in Oregon. You have to, by law, pay them commission or hourly, whichever is greater. So, in order to not get yourself in the negative too much, you want to get them on the floor as quickly as possible, but you want to feel good about that, right? And that's where the trust factor comes in. If you do these test outs, then there's a process that you know that they're ready for it, that they know the color line that you carry in the salon, that their haircuts are up to standard with the salon promise, and that they don't have too many redos, therefore costing you more money as a salon owner. So, having those laid out very clearly in an apprenticeship program, and I would suggest having an employee handbook where everything is laid out ahead of time. So that way there's an orientation process, there's a training process, and then there is an opportunity for them to earn floor days on the floor. And then they can actually build up their clientele as they continue to learn until they've completed and fulfilled their apprenticeship. This episode is brought to you by Gloss Genius, which is the ultimate game changer for salon professionals. It's designed for businesses of all sizes. So Gloss Genius simplifies your workflow with payments, booking, analytics, payroll, and so much more. It really is the all-in-one platform. It has customizable online booking, one-click scheduling, and the lowest payment processing in the entire industry. So it helps you work smarter, not harder, basically. Try it for free. You can get that link in the description and elevate your business. Let's go. An added thing when it comes to trust is that there needs to be a one-on-one component. I offer quarterly one-on-ones with each employee, but I also do monthly meetings. And it is expected that everyone show up to that. And by doing that, it really helps with everyone getting on the same page together. We get to talk about things that are coming up in the future. We get to talk about things that are not going well. We get to get feedback from other people. We get to really feel like everyone has a voice at the table. And the really only way you can do that is having regular meetings. So I would suggest getting together a yummy lunch or like laying out a little buffet, having everyone there, blocking everyone's schedule out. I do it the last Friday of every month. Just pick a day that works well for you and stick with that on a monthly basis. And that really gives you time to work out some of the kinks that are just not going well in the business and updating the entire staff or team on what you guys can do better together and grow together. Especially if you bring in new products, you could do PK knowledge. There's a lot of fun things you can do during meeting times. And it's a chance for everyone to be together in the same space and really have those team building qualities and those team building opportunities together. When it comes to fostering a supportive team environment, too, I do believe that having incentives, bonuses, opportunities for leadership. So, if you have a stylist who's been with you for a couple of years, let's say, and they really want to start educating, giving them those opportunities to do that because it could actually help you grow your business in ways that you never thought possible either. And typically, as far as loyalty goes, when a stylist feels supported in their dreams and trying out new things rather than you telling them why they can't do it, it's giving them a little bit of a leeway to be able to grow in the ways that they envision too, because you may be surprised how that actually helps you and helps you grow as a business owner too. The reason also why I like to do these check-ins with people and I like to have these monthly meetings and quarterly meetings is that you can get a really strong feel for whether or not someone is really a part of your core value system or not. And when I have this 90-day policy within the apprenticeship, if this person for whatever reason ends up not really quite fitting the needs or the qualifications or really even the standards in that original interview process. And even if you went through all four of those steps, sometimes you just don't align properly. That 90 days kind of gives you a little bit of an out and it gives you a chance to really reconnect with that person and talk about, let's revisit some of the things that I'm needing from you and some of the things that I would like to provide for you. How are you feeling about that? And then it makes it easier also to part ways and not feel like this major lead up. And a lot of times salon owners end up hanging on to an employee for too long or keeping someone on their team that's not a good fit that can bring the morale down. When you're not a good fit together, you can kind of feel it. And I think sometimes it takes a while to recognize it. But when you have these check in times together, it makes you look for it. And that also helps to build trust with that person. And it helps that person feel like you're fully invested in them. Remember, a partnership in any walk of life is a relationship where communication is a two-way street. And people need to feel like they're both taken care of, but that also their voice is heard at the same time. And for you to trust somebody, you need the same back in return for them. So if you're giving your all to this person and you're not getting it back in return and you know that it's not a good fit, then parting ways not only feels a little bit easier, but laying out those kind of foundational, I guess, kind of qualifications in the beginning makes it also easy for you to revisit that and to say, at this time, I think that this is not a good fit. Hiring and trusting new employees doesn't have to be stressful. And with a structured approach, knowing who it is that you're hiring, having these test outs and knowing where their skill set is and integrating them into your salon and offering growth opportunities, that can all help with building a reliable team that supports you and your growing mission as a salon. But also that's what helps you lead more leaders. It brings up more leaders, and that also gives you more freedom in the back end. So I think it's really important to really give this thought and consideration instead of just hiring off the cuff the first person that comes to mind, because it could set the track in a whole different trajectory for your salon. And that can end up leading again to burnout, confusion, overwhelm, or worst case, it could end up you closing your doors. So if you found value in today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, of course, and definitely leave a comment, share your feedback with me. And if you leave a review, it helps the right people find us, which means the world to me. And I always love to hear from you what helped you and what it is that you're looking for, because I want to be here for you every step of the way. Remember to dream big, set goals, take action, and I will chat with you next week.